Factory Rat Gaming.
Welcome everyone, and thanks for being here. Welcome back to shapes.io. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. When we last left off, we were building these little mushrooms. We had to do about 1,000 of those. Today what we're going to do is, before we build anything, develop a system to build this level 12 right here. This is like a blue teardrop with a white circle stacked on the top. We need to get 1,000 of them, and what we're going to do is make a plan and then build a practically perfectly planned factory. Now the first thing I'm looking for is, do we have the teardrop shape? I see one up here. Here it is, right here. I don't see any much closer than that. We could make them combining a couple of different shapes. I don't know if that's any better. This one's about as far away. That one is as far, and it's right next to blue. This might be a good choice. So here what we're going to do is set up a chart that can help us see what machines we have available to us and what their throughput capacity is. If I click on conveyor, it pops up here with a little info tag that says the speed of this one is 3 items per second. We're just going to keep all of our throughput capacity in items per second. We don't need to type that out each time. Let's look here. We've got the balancer and the mergers, each of those variants. So if we use a balancer, we get 6 items per second. If we use mergers, we get 3 per second. Okay, we have the tunnel. The tunnel allows 3 items, similar to the conveyor. Okay, so now we've got the extractor. Now this just got upgraded to an extractor chain. It looks like the speed is 0.6 per extractor. So we can affect that speed by essentially having more extractors, especially if we chain them together. Now we can look at our cutter. I don't know that we're going to need to use any cutting. We're basically just extracting, conveying, and stacking. But our cutter, just so we have it, is 0.75. All right, moving down the list, we now get our rotator. We can get 3 per second through the rotator, just like a conveyor. And the stacker gets 0.37 per second. Next, we've got the color mixer, mixing 2 colors. This operates at a speed of 0.6 and the painter 0.5. Now lastly, we haven't used this since about one of the first levels, but we do have a garbage, and it looks like it has no capacity. It says accepts inputs from all sides and destroys them forever. So we can just use the garbage can at will. I also checked the hub, and I can't see any limitations on capacity here. I think things can just flow in as fast as they can. Okay, so given all of that, we're going to start planning out our practically perfectly planned production line. Now what we're going to do is take a minute to actually make our plan. And we've got this throughput capacity. Essentially what I want to have happen is I want to pump a continuous stream and get from 0 to 1,000 in the shortest amount of time possible. First things first, let's get our list quick, just a quick list here of the things we're looking for. So we need a blue teardrop, and we need a white circle, and we need those stacked one on top of the other. So this is going to be, we'll call this the stack, and then we're going to deliver those. We're going to say our flow is headed down. Okay, so essentially we're going to have 2 processes to get the blue teardrop and the white circle, and then get them stacked and then delivered. Our end goal here is the hub. Our inputs here, we need to get a neutral drop, as well as we need to get blue pigment. Then we need to paint the drop, and that gives us our blue drop. So now we're at blue. Okay, now over here for the white circle, now this is going to be different. We've got to get a neutral circle, and here we've got to mix lots of colors. So we've got to get blue, green, and red and mix those. Now, I don't actually know if you can put blue and green and make cyan, and then if you just add red and it makes white. So let's go see how the game has been programmed so that we know how to make our plan. Okay, we're going to come in here and just make a quick factory setup for mixing paint colors, just to find out what it takes. Here we go. We've got a little pocket right here, and we're going to throw down an extractor, and all we're trying to do here is make white, just so we know how to make white. Okay, now these 2 combine using the paint mixer, and it should give us yellow, and it does. We have green and red made yellow. Now if we add blue, does it make white, or do we need to have a magenta and cyan to make white? We'll just put one more here, add blue. Now if we're lucky, all we have to do is add blue. All right, now blue is flowing down. Let's get this pulled off so we can see the result here. Blue and yellow does indeed make white. All right, so we don't have to make all the secondary colors. We just have to make any secondary color. So that's good to know. So if we get a blue, green, and red and mix those, that makes white. Then we're going to paint the circle. Now we end up with a white circle. Now we're going to use a stacker to end up with a stacked unit, and then from there we'll get them into the hub. Okay, so based on this, we want to balance these out so that everything is delivering 3 parts per second to the hub. Let's call this one conveyor equivalent. This will tell us what we have. So we have this divided by that. So we need 1 conveyor to equal 1 conveyor. That sounds right. We've got our math backwards. So let's do it this way. There we go. Half a balancer equals 1 conveyor. All right, now we just have to fill this in and see what the rest of it says. 1 merger, 1 tunnel for each conveyor. Extractors, we're going to need 5 extractors to keep up with 1 conveyor. 4 cutters keep up with 1 conveyor. 8 stackers to keep up with 1 conveyor. 5 color mixers keep up with 1 conveyor. And 6 painters keep up with 1 conveyor. That says neural drop. Let's go ahead and change that to neutral. Okay, now because conveying is essentially a one-to-one, whether you use a conveyor or a balancer or a merger, we're going to ignore those as our part of the process and just go based on these other parts of the process where there's actually something being changed to the product. Okay, so let's go ahead and put these in a line here. Okay, so this is our process steps. This is the machines needed, and this is going to be number of machines. Okay, now let's get just a quick diagram going of this so we can see what we're dealing with. We're gonna use this cool smart art feature. We'll do a hierarchy. All right, so going into the hub, we have 8 stackers. Now to feed those 8 stackers, we need 6 painters coming from the blue drop, and we are gonna need 6 painters coming from the white circle. Now, to get to this 6 painters, we need 5 extractors giving me drops, and I need 5 extractors giving me blue pigment. All right, that's that part of the process. So essentially we've got 5, 10, 16 machines feeding into 8 stackers. For the other half of the process, we have 6 painters. In that painter, we're getting a neutral circle, which is coming from an extractor. And then we're also getting the white pigment, which is coming from a paint mixer. So we also need 5 paint mixers leading into that. All right, now this paint mixer, in order to succeed, it needs to be fed a secondary color from a previous paint mixer, as well as the 3rd primary color. So we're gonna come from the paint mixer, as well as we're gonna be coming from an extractor for the 3rd primary. Okay. Last thing, now to get this secondary color, we need 5 extractors for 1 primary color and 5 extractors for the next one. So we've got primary colors feeding into a mixer to give us a secondary color. That will mix with another primary color to give us white. That mixes with the circle to give us white circles. That's going to go into a stacker where it meets up with these. Now this leg is pigment being placed on top of drops in painters and then brought to the stacker. Those stack together to be delivered to the hub. All right, so now we know what we need. We're gonna go get this set up. Let's start with the blue teardrop thing. That seems like a pretty easy place to start. Now we know we need 5 extractors, and we need 5 extractors for each of those. And then these two both should be able to keep fed a system of 6 painters that are going to paint these teardrops blue. Now these teardrops are going to have to get rotated. Let's just go ahead and take care of that now before we forget. Okay, so now we've got our blue teardrop facing the right way. We're going to go ahead and put this into 6 painters. So from here, let's just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now what has worked pretty well in the past is using tunnels to get the colors up under here, and then we can use balancers to pipe in the rest of it. Those blues are gonna have to come there, and we'll pull these. May as well just pull them right around the bottom side here. Make it easy for ourselves. Now essentially what we should see, the balance of these should allow this whole workstation to keep up with exactly 1 conveyor belt worth of production. Oh, and I have already messed this up. So I got these lined up incorrectly. So let's try that again. It needs to go here between the tunnels so it has room to turn. Next, we can merge all of these out onto 1 conveyor belt, and we will do that using this merger here. There we go. Okay, now what we should see is that this belt never stops flowing, it never has any gaps, and it never has to wait. This should never stop flowing, never have any gaps, and never have to wait. And this should never stop flowing, never have any gaps, and never have to wait. So both of these inputs and this output are being perfectly balanced in and out of this work center here. Okay, so next let's get these piped over to some circles. We need to make some white circles and then get them combined and into the hub. I think this looks as good a place as any. It's on its way to the hub, and we've got red, blue, and green kind of in the neighborhood of a circle here, and then paint the circles as they merge in over here. So again, we know we need 5 extractors and 5 extractors here. Let's go ahead and turn these around. Now here we're going to go ahead and combine these, and that should give us yellow. Is that right? No, it gives us cyan. Cyan is fine. We'll add red to cyan to make white. Okay, so now what we can see is that this one is not able to keep up with the flow of this. That's because we need 5 paint mixers in order to keep up with the flow of these 2 pipelines here. So let's go ahead and get this station set up for 5. We'll just go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hopefully that was not a bad choice. We'll pipe those in there, bring these back, and then like we've done before, we will use these to tunnel underneath to connect in on each of these. So that'll get blue in there, that gets green into each one. Use this balancer again. Let's go ahead and bring this up and in, and cut that corner there. Now this should be giving us cyan. Let's use our balancer, our merger again. Now what we should see is this cyan color flowing perfectly out and perfectly in, just like we saw the good flow from before. This won't flow because it's balancing the capacity of these machines here. You can see that as a whole, this whole work center is flowing work in and out at a steady pace. So if we get rid of the garbage can, you can see this stops and that stops. Now watch what happens as soon as we start it again. Everything starts flowing all at the same time, and it doesn't take long before this is a really steady flow coming in. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take these cyan and we're headed up towards red, which was over here. So we've got to mix it with red and get some circles, paint the circles onto it. So we'll pull circles from here and red from there. Okay, so that's gonna give us our cyan. We need 5 extractors. We can do our paint mixers pretty much right away here. So now as red and cyan catch up with one another, we should see these whites start flowing out more smoothly. It'll take just a minute for this work center to balance out, but eventually this output conveyor is going to have no gaps and no waiting. And there we are, just like magic. It filled itself in and we've got a nice full conveyor of white. Let's go ahead and get the circles pumped over and we can get them painted on. So we know we're gonna need 5 again. And just because we're starting to get used to our machines, we also know that the shapes are gonna need to be on this side of the color. So we may as well just go ahead and set that up the right way. All right, so it looks like we need 6 painters to keep up with this paint mix setup. Let's go ahead and get painters set up here. And we're going to do it exactly like we just did those blue teardrops. So now we've got cyan flowing in very smoothly, red flowing very smoothly, white, circles, everything is perfectly balanced. We still have green flowing smoothly to keep the cyan going like that. Now what we've got to do is get this blue teardrop patched onto these white squares. We'll do that right as we get close to the hub over here. Okay, so in order to keep up with this amount of production, we need 8 stackers. Let's go ahead and look at this stacker. Okay, so they both come in on the back side and then come together just like our paint mixer does. Where's our hub? Our hub is over here. All right, so let's get 8 stackers. We're gonna go ahead and pull this line so that it can start flowing. Okay, so we're gonna let this pipe fill up. Oh, it's almost full, so that's perfect timing. While we get this set up, these are gonna stack, and then we will pipe those in to our hub here, and we'll be rocking and rolling. So we're setting this up just like we did before. We're gonna pipe them in, split them off, and then we will use them to feed all of these. So these little work centers seem to be working pretty well. As long as we get the input balanced with the output, we can get just the right amount of things peeled off here, and we can just keep that flowing. Oh, okay, so we do need to get those 2 switched around. I guess left goes on right, is that what it is? Combine its inputs on the same layer if possible. Otherwise, the right input is stacked on top of the left input. Yep, that makes sense. So, easy peasy, we're just gonna switch these two around. We will use a tunnel here. Now we should start seeing them flipped around. There it is. Wow, it holds quite a bit. It looked like there were 6 that came through, but that's okay. We've got it figured out now. All right, we've just got to get these finished up. So let's get this one connected and then get this one. Get the main line headed here. And now we will get our mergers in place. All right, perfect. So now we've got a nice steady flow, practically perfectly planned. So if let's see it from beginning to end real quick. So back down here, we've got these shapes flowing all the way through this work center, flowing in, flowing out. They make this huge long trip down to here where they kind of pair up with the circles. And then here's where they get put together. The circles are getting painted white from the cyan and red, and cyan is getting made down here. So you can see the blue and the green are flowing perfectly. Everything's flowing perfectly. Now what's really cool is without changing anything, if we just delete this garbage can so that this stops, things will stop. So this stopped. Once this work center filled up, it stopped. Now these are stopping. Those have stopped. And we've stopped all the way back here as well. Now if we throw down some conveyors to get us into the hub, we'll start cranking them in. Our count is going up and you can see things are flowing. And that is a perfectly balanced, practically perfectly planned production line. Within a matter of seconds, things are flowing here because they're needed, and they just continue on through the system. I intend to do a super version of this sometime in the future where we get a factory filling all 16 of these ports on the hub and flowing in perfectly. So watch for that. We might do that for level 13 or 14. I also do want to chase these upgrades a little bit. We've got half circles needed. In fact, we could do some of those while we wait for this. We've got just a minute, so we may as well throw down some extractors here. Now these can pop out right there. We will cut those, and we need them rotated to the bottom. This can be sloppy because we don't need it to be perfect. And just like that, we've got ourselves some half circles. That'll be filling up our upgrade. There it goes. 200 and some odd already. We could balance this one even further. The cutter, we need 4 cutters to keep up with 1 conveyor. Alright, so there you have it, the practically perfectly planned production line for the level, as well as for this upgrade. Now, if we were to merge all these together, we could see them flowing satisfyingly into there, and we'll drop it right out there. And there you have it, a practically perfectly planned production line. And we're just flowing those in. New upgrade available because we made those so quickly. Go ahead and upgrade that. And we're almost to 1,000 of those. Level 12 completed. You can now copy and paste parts of your factory. Select an area, hold Control to drag with your mouse, and press C to copy it. Pasting it is not free. You need to produce blueprint shapes to afford it. Interesting. All right, so we'll be getting into that in the next one. Oh, fascinating. So I've got to keep producing these blueprint shapes in order to keep up the ability to paste. Very fascinating. Now suddenly I've become imbalanced. Oh, because I upgraded. So yes, so see now we went, this is now, oh, so each conveyor is now 4 items per second, which is gonna change our whole plan. Well, that's gonna do it for today. Thanks for joining. Hope you're enjoying this look at Shapes.io. Really enjoyable game to play. If you're liking it, give the like button a tippity tap. Subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next one.